two in the runoff, Travis Hendricks and Sylvia Swain, will be battling it out over this next month.
And Swain is the first transgender candidate to run for state office.
What would it mean to you to be the first transgender woman in Alabama politics?
It would just mean that we're here, that we're not just this stereotype or this boogeyman. We're people just like anyone else in Alabama. We grow up here, we live here, we find our happiness here, and we belong.
And a woman who's making history as the first transgender to run for the Alabama House of Representatives is speaking out tonight. 26-year-old Sylvia Swain's name will be on the ballot.
Dale Jackson here for Yellowhammer Now, and yes, we have a story about Alabama's first transgender elected official, or at least the possibility of such a thing. And the American media has been somewhat interested in this. They'll be far more interested if she actually wins, but we're not quite there yet. But the campaign is for next Tuesday in District 55, and it's now starting to get a little bit ugly. But is it becoming transphobic? Now, I just shared with you some stuff that is off of the candidate's Instagram, focusing on their transgender status and how they would be a first. Now, they're complaining a little bit about this. Why? Well, because people are talking about it. But that's not really fair if you ask me, because the campaign's been talking about it. They've been pretty open about the fact that she's transgender, and obviously they have to be, and they should be. That's who the person is. They've been promoted by groups outside of the state, and this is being pointed out by the other campaign. And they're not happy about that. This flyer just went out. The part that is circled was circled by an organization called the LGBTQ Plus Victory Fund. The reason why they circled that part is because they accurately point out that Sylvia Swain, the candidate for House in District 55, was born to be a white male and lives as a white transgender woman. That's accurate. We've seen this constantly. There's nothing wrong with the way she wants to live her life, and there's nothing wrong with telling people that that's how she lives her life. She wants to be known as a she. I will try my best to do that every time I speak of her, but I'm not perfect. They lay out some reasons here that this might be relevant. Unknown to the voters. Receive more than $50,000 from out-of-state organizations. Out-of-state organizations that want the first transgender from Alabama elected to be a story. I think that's a fair thing to point out. Now they're mad that it's being pointed out. You got groups from outside of the state donating money to this candidate because they're the first transgender. You have the opponent's campaign, Travis Hendricks, pointing out that she's the first transgender candidate. In a Democratic primary, might I mind you, which is really all that's going to matter in this particular district. And now we're calling it transphobic. It's not transphobic. It's part of her identity. She wants to be affirmed, and now they're affirming her identity. Why is this a problem? Well, because people love victims. So she's trying to make herself the victim, and by any means necessary, apparently. I just don't think that's very right. I think it's been pretty clear that this is a key part of her campaign. And I think the people in that district should know that. There's nothing wrong with pointing that out. And playing the victim on this merely points that out even more. So the LGBTQ Plus Victory Fund, congratulations. You're doing exactly what her opponents want you to do. Trying to make her a victim, further highlighting that she is, in fact, a transgender woman. And people like me and others are going to point that out. And people are going to see that even more. Which, again, is just affirmation that that's what she is. And isn't that what she's seeking after all? Will she be the first transgender elected official in Alabama? I would guess that is pretty unlikely.